Our next speaker is Sunny Ray, who is a longtime Bitcoin guy and has done a few different things. He worked with Buttercoin, which was one of the, a really good technical achievement, I think, that, in the space. And he's going to talk about what he is up to right now. So come on up, Sunny. Thank you very much. You have your.
Okay, hello? Okay, everyone can hear me? Perfect. So my name is Sunny. Maybe before I begin, I'd like to just ask the room here. So how many people in this room have heard about Bitcoin and have known about it for more than 3 years? Anybody? Okay, so we've got obviously Ira. Okay. How many people have known about it for more than 2 years? More than 2 years? Okay. How about people who have just learned about it in the last 1 year? Anybody? Or? Okay, so we've got a lot of people here from the last 1 year. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with, first of all, defining what Bitcoin is, right? I know most of us know what it is, but I think it's important to do this. So Bitcoin is the world's first open-sourced, decentralized digital currency and payment network. So the reason a lot of people get Bitcoin confused is because it's actually two things in one. It's a digital currency, kind of like dollars or rupees or gold, where it has a value associated to it. And it's a payment network, kind of like Western Union or Visa or PayPal. They're rails for sending value across the internet. And so, although that's kind of a technical definition, personally I like analogies. So I think Eric mentioned this earlier, but my favorite analogy is, do you guys remember what life was like before email? Like, let's say you wanted to talk to somebody on the other side of the world. You'd have to take out a piece of paper, write it out by hand, and walk over to the post office. It would take a couple of weeks. It'd be really expensive, and then finally your grandmother on the other side of the world would get your letter a couple of weeks down the road, and then you'd have to repeat, and it was just really cumbersome, right? And then something called SMTP came about. It's essentially a protocol not owned by any company or government or person. Essentially a protocol that enabled humans to be able to transact, right? Or not transact, but to be able to communicate free and instantaneously. So now, instead of having to take weeks, I can just write a message, click a button, and bam, it's there, and my grandma can see what I'm doing or whatever. And another thing was this voice over IP, right? So voice over IP is a protocol behind Skype. And now, right now we take it for granted, but the truth is that we're able to see one another and communicate one another for free and instantaneously. That was another huge, remarkable achievement. And then you had companies like Gmail and Yahoo build nice user interfaces on top of SMTP. You had Skype build nice user interface on top of voice over IP. So just like how those protocols enabled never before seen or done things, Bitcoin is similar in the sense that it's just a protocol. It's not owned by any company or any government. It's essentially open source code that anybody can view. And it enables, for the first time in history, any human on Earth to send as little or as much value from one point to another with no middleman, with no financial institution, with no government, with no person in the middle, except for mathematics, right? Which is really, really cool and profound. So I'm going to start here talking a little bit about UnoCoin and what we're up to. So our agenda here, so I think I've got about 30 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about what we do. So we are the leading Bitcoin platform in India. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the market size in terms of what the space looks like in India. We'll talk a little bit about our traction in terms of our user growth and what's actually taking place. And I'll talk a little bit about what our unique insight was and why I think we've been able to do what maybe others haven't been able to do in India. I'll talk a little bit about our revenue model if you're interested about how companies like ours actually make money, and then I'll finish off by talking a little bit about our team as well. But before I do, I wanted to just quickly tell you guys just at least my story. So I'm an electrical engineer. My parents are from Kolkata. I grew up in Canada. And I spent about 8 years doing business development for a robotics company. And so my role there was really just, I was looking after North America, and then I built out our Latin America channel. I built out South Asia, and I was just kind of the guy who went all around the world and built up our different markets. And so about 3 years ago, I moved to India to help build out our India market. And it was around that time where I was starting to ask questions like, what's freedom? But more importantly, what is money? And so in my experience, having been I don't know how many like countries and cities, like thousands of cities around the world, I found that there are a lot of differences from country to country or city to city. People look different, they're different, they eat different foods, they have different music, different religion, right? There's all these differences between us, yet there's one common denominator, at least from what I've seen. And that common denominator is money, right? So you mention the word money to anybody, and usually you get their undivided attention. And then you follow that question up with, what is money? And to my surprise, so he mentioned earlier that I used to work for a Google venture-backed Bitcoin exchange, so I spent a lot of time even dealing with, financial professionals and CEOs of banks and, and everybody. You ask this question and you'd be surprised as to, I don't think I've ever had anybody actually answer that question. Most of the times I get answers like, money is happiness, or money is life, or money is this, or money is that. But it's alarming to me that we go to school our whole lives to try and get a job so we can earn money. We wake up in the morning every day, we go to work, we come home late. So we're all after this one thing, yet most of us don't know what it is, right? And I think, so for me, the most exciting thing about Bitcoin is the fact that it just gets you to think about what is money is, I think, pretty revolutionary. And so about 3 years ago, when I started asking myself this question, what is money? The first answer was like, well, what's gold? Gold's been around for 10,000 years. Nobody forced it upon any society, yet it's, it's kind of everywhere. And, I tried to give my auto rickshaw guy in India like a $10 US bill because I didn't have money on me or rupees on me, and he literally looked at me and laughed. He's like, get that out of my face, because he can't spend it anywhere, right? But if I had given him a piece of gold, he would have taken it anywhere on earth. So what is it about gold that makes it, so unique, right? And if you look this up on Wikipedia, and most of what I know about money I learned from guys like Eric, but if you look at just things like, well, money is something that's fungible, it's something that's divisible, it's usually international, money is usually limited, right? It's not unlimited. So there's all these qualities that make money money. And so to me, Bitcoin is really the future of money. So about 3 years ago when I was in India, I didn't have any friends, and I decided, why don't we just start up the Bitcoin meetup groups, right? And so we started the first Bitcoin meetup group. The first couple of meetup groups was me, my wife, and some other crypto geek, and then and eventually we built that up to now there's like over a couple thousand people around India and 5 different cities, and they all meet regularly, and that's really where everything started for us. And the meetups were exciting because that became our playground for experimenting and learning about money. So like the team in the back, Satvik, and the rest of us, we started working on mining. We built like a huge mining rig. We built wallets. We threw the Global Bitcoin Conference last year in Bangalore. So we just started doing everything we could kind of get our hands on. And all of that really kind of led to the idea of, hey, why don't we build a service that allows people in India to buy and sell Bitcoin. So in a nutshell, our mission at UnoCoin is bring Bitcoin to billions, right? And our vision is we just want to make money simple. I worked as a financial advisor a long time ago, and I had all the licenses and everything and clients, and the more I understood our current money system, the more I felt like I didn't understand it, right? So I think money right now is like intentionally complicated, mainly because, I don't know who it is, but people don't want people to understand what money is. So our objective is hey, let's just make money super, super simple. We'll use Bitcoin as the protocol behind it. So what do? We allow Indians to buy, use, and accept Bitcoin. Really simple, right? So you can come to our site, you can buy Bitcoin through your bank account. You can also use it, so we have like a wallet in our system, so you can, go to Dell, or you can buy some Microsoft goods, or whatever it is. And if you're a business, you can also accept Bitcoin now through UnoCoin. So what does that all mean? So there's a map of India. So 1.3 billion people. So 1 out of every 7 humans on Earth live in India, right? Pretty cool. It's a pretty big market space. And we allow these people to buy, use, and accept Bitcoin. We are now the leading Bitcoin platform in India. And some people, call us like the Coinbase of India, right? But I don't like terms like that, but just to give you an idea of what we do. So market size, right? So we started with the platform that we have today, which is essentially a buy-sell service. We enable, Bitcoiners like us to buy and sell Bitcoin. It's a small niche community in India right now, yet it's growing really, really quickly. I'll talk a little bit about why I think that's happening. But so the next layer here is we consider Bitcoin to be digital gold, right? A lot of here. Does anybody wonder why Bitcoin is called digital gold, or does everybody know? Anybody wondering why Bitcoin you are? Okay, so example, I was talking about this earlier. So gold has certain properties, right? So more specifically, gold is fungible, right? What fungibility means is that if I have a piece of gold or an ounce of gold and you have an ounce of gold, it's atomically the same. We can trade it, and it's worth the same. Gold is divisible, right? So I can give you a tiny piece of gold, or I can give you a larger piece of gold, buy a house, and I can buy, or I can go grocery shopping. Another thing is that gold is scarce, right? So there's only so much gold on Earth, and you can't just wave a wand and create, a ton of gold like that. And so scarcity is an important element of any currency. Anyone guess any other qualities of what gold money? Eric's not allowed to answer either. Okay, go ahead, Ira. Yes, exactly. So you can verify that, right? And any Hello? Yeah, you need a what?
It takes a star exploding and then having an astronomically unlikely collision in the middle of
So it's very hard to create, exactly. So if you look at Bitcoin, it's actually got all those elements coded into the protocol, right? So it's fungible. So if I have one Bitcoin, you have one Bitcoin, we can trade it, and it's exactly the same. It's scarce. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. There's about 13 million today, and there's no way to just create Bitcoins out of thin air. And so that's another exciting thing. Bitcoin is international, right? In the sense that, whereas my auto rickshaw guy in India is not going to accept a dollar bill, he will accept gold. So Bitcoin is becoming more and more accepted, in different countries. So like this, we think, and so digital gold, right? So $500 billion gold market. The 181 million families in India hold an average of about 6 times about $3,000 worth of. Just keep turning off. About $3,000 worth of gold. So, it was really alarming to me because I'm born and raised in Canada, but when I moved to India, you'd be surprised. Fridays come around, people line up at the bank to just turn their paychecks into gold, right? And gold is, and even though people in India might not be able to articulate why they love gold so much, but they just do, and it's traditional, and it's kind of like cultural, and they just know that, if you buy gold, you're not gonna, get washed out by the, when you say it. So let's see here. So the next, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is that a lot of people who are buying and selling Bitcoin are kind of treating it like digital gold. It's a commodity. It's something that they can maybe buy and speculate on. The next one is e-commerce, right? So e-commerce is a huge market in India, and so we recently launched a merchant gateway that allows, just like how Microsoft is now accepting Bitcoin, so now companies in India can start accepting Bitcoin. And what we do is we turn those Bitcoins into rupees and deposit it in their bank account so that they can run their business and not be exposed to volatility, et cetera, et cetera. Next one is remittance, right? You keep hearing about remittance, and everyone keeps talking about how Bitcoin's going to disrupt remittance. So the corridor into India is actually the largest. So if you look at remittance globally, I think it's like a $700 billion market. About $100 billion is money coming into India. And so just before this, we're talking to Circle and different companies and potentially working with Bitcoin companies around the world to facilitate remittance. And even though that's been something that's a lot of people have been talking about, again, you need kind of that infrastructure. You need a Bitcoin platform in India to actually facilitate that. So that's another area that we're looking at. Mobile phone adoption. So you see there it says 900 million mobile phones in use in India. And it's just crazy. Like when I was a kid and we'd visit India, you wouldn't see mobile phones everywhere. But now, like rickshawalas, everybody in India has a mobile phone. And then the final one is banking the unbanked. So 40% of the country is unbanked. And just like how people in India kind of jumped the whole landline concept, right? They just went straight to cell phones. We're going to try and make it so that people, those 40% or 400 million people, jump to Bitcoin. Okay, so that's a little bit about market size. Let's talk about traction. So around last year, this time, we kind of came up with the ideas around August, maybe around October-ish, where we started thinking about, well, how do we actually bring Bitcoin to the masses in India? And by around December, and by the way, Satvik, do you want to put your hand up? So Satvik's the CEO of UnoCoin, and he's the guy who kind of really helped bring this whole vision to life. And so by December, we did a public trial. So we did a global Bitcoin conference around December, and at that conference, we launched UnoCoin. Around February, we were in full production. By around August of this year, we had passed $1 million in trade volume, and we also, some of you have probably heard of Barry Silbert. He's kind of like the Batman of Bitcoin. He's also, he's one of our backers. He had reached out to us and said he wanted to help out, and we're super excited about that. And then now, today, we have close to 10,000 users, and we're growing at about 20%, per month, and we're just getting warmed up. So, what makes us fly? Like, what's our, at least from my perspective, what's our unique, insight or competitive advantage? So, the thing that we realized, well, number one, we realized that you needed to have, a slick interface. You needed to make it really, really easy for people to use. It wouldn't work if it was going to be complicated and designed for geeks like us, right? And then UX is one side of the interface, then also offering customer service. So I know a lot of Bitcoin companies are really poor at offering customer service. Well, we've got customer service 16 hours a day for 6 days a week. And we're trying to turn that into 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Another thing is we're also community leaders. So within India, whether you look at the meetup space or conferences or anything that's really taking place in Bitcoin, we're at the front of that. And then the other, I would say, really important piece was before UnoCoin started, there were a few services that were out there, but they didn't really take AML and KYC and all these things seriously. And so we thought that was an important piece as well to make sure that we played fair with governments. And just my 2 cents about that, we could probably sit here and talk about ideologies and whether we're libertarians or anarchists or whatever. But the truth is that at the end of the day, governments do exist, and yeah, we need to make sure that we abide by their rules, because if you don't, then bad things happen. So just fast forward. So so the next slide is about partnerships. We're now aggressively looking at expansion, but when I say expansion, I mean more along the lines of partnering with different Bitcoin companies around the world. So if you're one of them, please come and speak to us. Some of the markets, obviously, we're looking at is USA, Canada, and believe it or not, Dubai is actually or UAE is the largest remitter to India. So it's sometimes easy to just think, well, it's maybe the US or whatever. It's not. It's actually where we're standing right now. So yeah. Let's see here. Revenue model. So just quickly about how we make money. So again, we're a trading platform. So when people buy and sell on our platform, we charge a certain percentage. So like I said, we also recently released a merchant gateway, which enables companies or online companies to accept Bitcoin. In fact, we just signed our first one up, I think, last week, right? So we've got, it's not a huge company, but it's like a travel agency that's going to now start accepting Bitcoin. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to actually go after, so for example, Microsoft just launched, we're going to try and go after Microsoft India. Dell is doing it, well, so Dell India should be a candidate. And we think that they maybe haven't done that yet because of the fact that maybe they haven't figured out that you can convert from Bitcoin to rupees. So another thing is we're going to be offering vault storage services as well. So for those people who are willing to pay a little bit extra to get that extra bit of security. And then obviously we use arbitrage in the back end as well. So our team, just quickly, so like I said, Satvik is our fearless leader, sitting in the back over there in the nice vest. We've got Harish, Abhinand, Roshan's our chief scientist. We've got Abhishek as well, who's our lead of marketing and sales. He's here as well. And we've got Rupa and Sweta, and I think this is maybe half the team or something. I think we're up to now 16 or 17 people. We're probably going to be doubling in size in the next month or two. And so we're growing really, really quickly. We just moved into a new office, and anyways, things are really exciting. So social networking, so if you guys want to connect with us as well, we have a presence on Facebook, on Meetup, on Twitter. We've got a page on LinkedIn as well. And how are we doing for time? I'm about 20 minutes in. We're good? Okay, so I wanted to just kind of zip through my presentation and actually open it up more for like a, like a dialogue where we can talk if you guys have any questions. So with that, I'll finish and open the floor up to you guys. Do we have any questions? Ira, yes.
Yes, my question is about Indian. Pardon. My question is about Indian regulators and the
Yeah,
government.
pass. Next question, please. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Yeah.
So this is actually, we also believe that India is one of the best markets for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And in researching our SMS wallet, we found that India has some of the most restrictive regulations in the world about SMS messages. You have to basically get each message pre-approved by the government. So that was very, very difficult for us to work with. But have you found that the regulators that you're interfacing with are open to Bitcoin, and do you think that there's really a future for them in India?
Yeah,
they
so-
see a future for Bitcoin in India, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, so our approach to regulation was that, you can't in the age of the internet, you can't hide, right? You've got you're just out there, and so we decided that we were just so infected, and it's your fault, really, Eric. Like guys like you guys, you too, like Bruce Wagner interviews, anyways. So we got so infected with this idea of Bitcoin that we just couldn't sleep at night, and we just said, hey, we gotta do something about it. And so when we threw the conference last year, the Global Bitcoin Conference, we sent letters to the RBI. We invited people from government offices. In fact, we ended up having we had a whole bunch of people from the government visit or come to our conference as well. And so that was kind of the first step. Now, in terms of what are the so there are no regulations around Bitcoin, right? So it's more just about being proactive and trying to create best practices or whatever, and looking at other countries and trying to figure out what might happen. Personally, the kind of the insight I had about a year ago was that I realized that what happens in the U.S. will have kind of a ripple effect globally, and hence I've been spending a lot of time studying that market. And so now with the U.S. really opening up to Bitcoin, or seemingly so, I think that countries like India will follow suit. Now, more specifically about India, the thing I love about India is that there's a lot of technical people there, right? And especially where we live in Bangalore, there's a lot of technical people. So if you look at, for example, the governor, the chief governor of India, so the RBI rather, the Reserve Bank of India, it's Raghuram, am I pronouncing it right? Right? Huh? Raghuram Rajan, right? So he is, if you look him up, he's one of the guys that he was with the IMF, right? Back in 2008, he actually stood up in front of Ben Bernanke and the rest of the gang and said that something was inherently wrong with the system. Okay, and he's written books about it called Fault Lines and all this. And on top of that, he's also an electrical engineer. Okay, so I'm personally very hopeful because here we have somebody, the Ben Bernanke equivalent, who actually has the capacity to understand Bitcoin for what it truly is, instead of what the media portrays it to be. And I think the key to getting across to regulators is not necessarily taking the whole hardcore libertarian stance, which I think internally all of us embrace. But the key is to really highlight the benefits of Bitcoin, right? So like I said, Narendra Modi, right? So the Prime Minister of India, recently at the G20 summit said that one of their key initiatives is to lower the cost of remittance from 10% to 5%. Well, Bitcoin can do that. So we need to frame it as that, right? So I think so. And so our lawyer also, for example, in India is one of the top guys. They're the people who actually helped Google and a lot of these companies set up payment processing laws. And so, for example, our law firm, they have all the people in their law firm are actually hardcore tech people. Like they're nanoscientists and engineers first, and then lawyers. And so last year, I don't know if you know, but the RBI issued, soon after our conference, they issued a statement to the whole country warning the country about some of the risks, right? That's essentially saying that they're not the ones who issue Bitcoins, and it's volatile and you might lose it. And so our law firm actually came out with, about a week or so after, with a rebuttal to that, saying that, look, upon analysis of the laws in India, we believe that Bitcoin is legal, but what you do with it could be considered illegal. So if you do illegal things with it, then it's not right. So, and in fact, just last week, he met with Raghu Rajan, the RBI governor. And I don't know how factual this is, but and I don't even, probably shouldn't be announcing this, but they had a conversation, and the consensus was that Bitcoin is legal. However, there's a lot of confusion, right? And so we're hoping to be that team, along with all the other Bitcoin companies emerging in India, to educate the government about the benefits, about banking the unbanked. I went to a conference last year called the FIPS conference, the Financial Inclusion and Payment Systems Conference. The entire conference was about how do we get more people to, get into Bitcoin. And what they're trying now is the government is forcing all the banks, for every branch, every 4 branches they open, they're forcing them to open 1 branch in the rural areas. And the banks are hating this because they're not making money, and it's like this catch-22. And so I stood up in front of the conference last year and I asked everybody, I'm like, has anyone here heard about Bitcoin? It's like, we're talking about financial inclusion, and it's like, hello, it's like the big pink elephant in the room that nobody talks about. So anyway, so as you guys know, like there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and you're right, India's regulatory-wise a tough place to navigate, but we're just trying our best.
Well,
Next
thank you
question?
for navigating it.
Yeah, go ahead.
To get your exact point on SMSs, so you have to do 2 things. One is only the template has to be registered, right? The data and the specific information can change. The template has to be registered one, and you have to buy an SMS gateway. Okay. So once you have these 2 things, you will not fall under the do not disturb category. Interesting.
Yeah, I have a better select.
Send out messages. Let's
Yeah.
talk more about this all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the best solution would be just work with UnoCoin.
Yeah.
We'll help you figure it out.
You guys have figured out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
My question is about the transferring rupees back, bitcoins into rupees. When you say the unbanked, most of them are particularly uninterested in getting banked, but they want to receive the money that comes in from their daughter or sister that works in Dubai, and
Exactly.
they're uninterested in all the technology behind it. So what kind of options, apart from interbank accounts, is the network inside India like?
Sorry, wait, your question was, so you're talking about remittance, but then you're asking, at the end you're saying what's the...
So it's the Indian side of the remittance. Let's say
Yeah.
you receive money from somewhere around the
Let's say
world.
you get a Bitcoin from your cousin in New York.
What's
okay?
the network inside of India like to transform those bitcoins into rupees?
That'll be us. That's what
In
we
the
do.
sense for people who just have the phone that's not a smartphone.
Oh,
or
yeah,
completely
that's not done
unbanked.
yet. So the SMS side is more, like when those concentric circles were more just about, like we're kind of at the first or second circle. Like our objective is to bank the unbanked with the help of, these 2 gentlemen. And, so we haven't quite gotten there. But to touch on remittance, the way it would work is, just as an example, let's say my dad has a Circle account in Houston. He could easily just fund his account. And my grandmother in Kolkata has, an UnoCoin account. He could just send, he could convert his dollars into Bitcoin in a few seconds with Circle, and then send that money over to my grandmother, at which point we would convert that back into rupees, and the ideal situation would be neither one of them. I mean, today they will both be interacting with Bitcoin to some extent, but hopefully in 2 or 3 months, they don't even know Bitcoin exists.
And in that scenario, the Uno account is attached to a bank account.
Yeah, exactly, and then we would so our company would send the money to my grandmother's bank account. And then we're also looking at how do you tackle cash to cash, right? That's
Thank you.
the real holy grail. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You have a question? I thought I heard somebody.
What fees do you charge on either side? The fees on either side when you're converting from Bitcoin to rupee, are you charging anything?
Yeah, we charge a fee.
And what are the fees like?
1%. Yeah, I think Circle is free, so yeah, it would be 1%. Yeah.
Hi, you mentioned that one of your goals was to, especially at this conference, was to partner with other Bitcoin companies. And so I was interested to know what kind of partnerships do you have in mind, and what kind of companies are you looking to partner with?
So ideally, Bitcoin
specifically?
trading platforms, exchanges, people who do similar things to what we do. So companies who offer buy-sell services, right? Because those would be the ones that we would need to be able to.
So just broadly any Bitcoin company, not
any Bitcoin company, but specifically Bitcoin companies that deal between fiat and Bitcoin, that enable people to buy and sell Bitcoin. Those are specifically the type of companies. I mean, like I said, Coinapult doesn't do that, so but we'd love to work with them. And there's there's a whole range of companies that we'd like to work with. But to tackle remittance specifically, those are the kind of partnerships we need. Yeah, go ahead.
You just said that a travel agency
Travel agency, yeah.
actually is working with you.
Flightshop.in. The owner said we're allowed to say it, so.
Yeah, they're accepting Bitcoin, right?
Well, yeah, we're just setting them up, so by Monday or Tuesday they should be good to go.
So it's kind of the same thing that Unifine is doing. They're going to come to you and give you Bitcoins, and you're going to.
Oh no! So the way it works is that, so for example, this specific store, so Flight Shop, they actually have an online presence, but 90% of their business is in person. People just come in, and so they've been getting a lot of people who have been asking about Bitcoin, and so the way it would look is that, so let's say you're the person who wants to buy a trip to wherever. You'd walk into that store, you have some Bitcoin in your wallet, and you can essentially pay with Bitcoin. And so from the merchant side, what would happen is that a screen would pop up on their iPad, and it would essentially, in real time, let's say the price of the ticket was $100 or something, then we would, I think it'd be like 0.3 Bitcoins. We would convert that instantaneously, and then a QR code would pop up, and you would just, yeah, see, I'm surprised we haven't done any, oh no, we did do a Bitcoin to Bitcoin transaction. So you kind of saw how that pizza was paid for. So it'd be very similar in that, it would feel similar in the sense that, yeah, you just send over the 0.3 Bitcoins, and then what we would do is we would take those 0.3 Bitcoins, we would turn it into rupees, and deposit it into Flightshop.in's bank account. Does that make sense? A little bit? Okay, cool. So next question, any more questions? Oh, yeah.
Do you run a two-sided order book for price discovery in rupees?
So we're not an exchange, so we don't really have like a public order book.
You're mostly focusing on the banking system interactivity, and then you're doing, instead of Coinbase dealing off of Bitstamp, where are you getting your rupee liquidity from in terms of finding price?
We can talk about that after.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll be in the back if you have any questions. Thank you.